Hello, future educators. You're listening to the best podcast on YouTube. Welcome to FUN-dations for college students. We're here with future music educator Ethan Wile. Hey, Ethan, how's it going? It's great to have you here today.
Hi, Michaela. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It is an honor.
Yeah, of course. Today we're going to be talking about the moving child. So, movement really intertwines with students' learning when it comes to music, and children absolutely love to move. So when you were in elementary school, do you remember a time where you used movement in class, like a specific time, or?
Yeah, my elementary school general music teacher had one movement activity she did on the same day every year to a song called Coco Jumbo.
Coco Jumbo.
Coco Jumbo, and we had specific movements that correlated with the lyrics, so I think I would classify it as an action song. That was great. The students loved it, and it sort of taught us that our movements could communicate the meaning in the lyrics of the song.
Well, and that's amazing because you still remember the activity really well. And that was such a long time ago when we were in elementary school. We used to do songs that were associated with games. So my teacher liked to pick them from a lot of different cultures. So there was actually one song from Trinidad that she did. So the class split between the boys and the girls. And each time we sang a verse of the song, it would go between the boys and the girls, we'd have to change one of the dance moves we were doing. I don't know, that's a little old-fashioned, splitting it between boys and girls, but that was 2008. So that was a really long time ago. Would definitely do that lesson differently in my classroom nowadays. And it really, it gave us a lot of time to express ourselves creatively and stuff. And we would usually, in I think it was second or third grade, we had music and physical education on the same day. So it was just a lot of energy usage there. And yeah, but your group actually taught lesson for chapter 6. And this might be a bit of a loaded question, but what was your favorite part about teaching this lesson and why?
I may be biased, but my favorite part of teaching the lesson was the activity I got to run, which was our creative movement section with, we chose a few different movements from Rimsky-Korsakov's Carnival of the Animals.
Yes.
And had the students move, according to whatever animal they thought the movement was about.
Yes.
And that was so much fun.
That was a lot of fun. I remember doing that, and we had to guess which animal the movement was supposed to be. That was a really fun lesson. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I loved seeing that even a lot of the time, the students, ended up getting the animal wrong.
Yeah.
But you could still see the thought process going on there. If the movement was the elephant, it was big and heavy.
Yeah. And
someone guessed another animal that's big and heavy, I could tell the student is listening to the right thing, is hearing the right thing.
Yeah, and they're moving to what they hear. What I liked, one of my favorite parts of the lesson was what you opened with that day was with telling the story. And we had to do the movement based off of the story that you were telling. I thought that was cool because we did that the prior class, so I'm glad we were able to do that again. It was really fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good way of expression.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun too with that activity in exploratory movement.
Yeah, exploratory movement. Yeah. And it really just amazed me though, throughout that whole lesson, everything that people came up with, because the possibilities are really endless for children, and I think it's really entertaining to be able to watch that when you are teaching a classroom yourself. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about was eurythmics with the Delcro's method. And when their body becomes a personal instrument, and it helps them understand the pulse and rhythm of music. And I think it's a really great way for children to show their understanding of music without words, and it's a great example of aesthetic enjoyment. When teaching the movement lessons, what do you find the most important? Well, what do you think is the most important for a successful learning environment if you were to teach a lesson that required lots and lots of movement?
To foster a successful learning environment in a movement lesson?
Yeah.
Well, the most important thing is, before you even start the lesson, making sure your space is ready. Make sure there are no desks or any other decorations in the way. Make sure the students have lots of space to spread out and not be bumping into each other as they're moving.
Yeah.
And also to give the students a little bit of heads up, make sure they're wearing clothing they can move in and nothing that's too restrictive.
Yeah, clothing that's comfortable.
And then once those two things are out of the way, I think a lot of people really underestimate how important it is to warm up the students.
Yeah.
we were talking earlier about that exploratory movement activity. That sort of acted as our warm-up that day. And really, as long as you have something at the beginning of class to get the students moving, get them into that mindset of, I am moving freely and actively, and I'm having fun,
Yeah.
then the lesson should be great.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you. I think space is like the most important thing, is when they have a lot of room to be able to move. And sometimes, unfortunately, though, teachers might not have a lot of space in their classroom, given the circumstance of like the socioeconomic status of the town the school is in, how much money the school is getting for the music program, and you have to like kind of work with what you have, and I feel like that could be a little challenging sometimes. I also think having structure in the classroom is something that's very important, like the rules and what types of like, what is like considered appropriate behavior and what isn't considered appropriate behavior is very important to also explain to the kids.
Yeah, that's true. Movement can get pretty out of hand.
Yeah.
You need to make sure the kids know what they can do. If a kid starts running in circles and
Yeah.
jumping up and down.
And punching the other students.
Yeah, well, that's worst case scenario.
Yeah. It's just rough.
You need to tell them what is and isn't appropriate classroom movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, similar to making sure they know instrument etiquette and the right way to handle an instrument before you give them an instrument.
Yeah, they need to know what they're doing, because like if they're like assembling a clarinet and you're just like, here, just set that up, they're gonna be like, figure it out eventually, but it's gonna be very difficult for them.
I did that my first day of clarinet class over Zoom. Put the whole thing together wrong.
How did you put it together wrong?
I put the upper, I can't remember what the thing is called.
The barrel or this thing?
That thing.
This thing, yeah. Did you put it on the bell?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I very nearly turned it in a way that some of the keys and levers and stuff like caught and almost snapped off.
Oh, no,
But I
yeah.
stopped before then.
Yeah, if you put it on, like if you don't screw this on tight enough, it'll pop off. It happens to me sometimes. It's kind of frightening. Yeah, so I kind of off-tracked this, and I didn't mean to do that because I kind of wrote it in a way. But do you think that Eurythmics allows students to be more creative, or do you think that creative dance gives them a better opportunity to do so? I know that's kind of a dumb question, but I needed something else to fill the time, so.
I think that creative movement definitely offers more of an opportunity to be creative, just because of all the types of movement that has the fewest guidelines. But Eurythmics can still be really great, access lots of those like creative parts of the brain, and give us a great way to let students physically communicate their understanding of the music. When I think creative movement, I think more specifically this is an opportunity for me, the teacher, to see what parts of the music the student is listening to see like what they grab onto and how they're expressing and understanding that.
Yeah. And I like how you can, like, know, like... Yeah, and I like that you're able to see that they're understanding. Like, you can tell right there, like, for, like, things that are, like, I guess, like, right then and there. Like, you know what I'm trying to, like, get at? Like, you can see that they understand, like, right then and there rather than, like, not knowing. Like, for example, like, if it was, like, just a bunch of, like, written stuff, you wouldn't really know in that moment that they don't understand.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, especially younger students, don't have the tools and don't have the vocabulary to write down or to talk about what they're hearing. So if you ask little Susie, what are you hearing in this music? And little Susie does not know the words to describe what she's hearing, then you are going to think that Susie is not intelligently listening to the music, when in reality, she just doesn't know how to talk about what she's hearing. So asking the student to move according to what they hear is a much more reliable way to assess that.
Because if you then were like, Susie, stand up and show me how it makes you feel, I feel like it would be easier for her to be like, dance to whatever like the music makes her feel like. So then the last thing I just wanted to ask, well, second to last thing, when it comes to evaluating the kids in the classroom, do you think it's better to do a summative evaluation in this type of lesson or formative evaluations?
Can you pause it? I would say when it comes to movement activities, formative evaluations on like a class-by-class basis are definitely the way to go. because it feels odd to me to assign a student an overall letter grade for this is how well you move,
Yeah.
when we have so many different types of movement, and we use movement in the classroom mainly as a tool for students to like communicate and to enhance their understanding of music.
Mhm.
So we should definitely include and think about movement when we are like grading for the semester and summatively evaluating students. But on a lesson by lesson basis, I think we should just stick with the formative evaluation and say, well, this is how well you're doing it in this specific instance. This is what you could do better. And yeah.
I agree with you. I think formative evaluation is probably the best way to go because you can help the student out to them. But if you do summative evaluation, I feel like it takes them a long time to learn what they've done wrong. But also it helps. The thing with summative evaluation is you can compare what they were doing at the beginning of the school year, and you can also compare it to what they're doing at the end of the school year. So it's a little tough when you're teaching like movement and stuff, but if this was like teaching instruments, formative evaluation would be 100% the way to go for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And for my final question for this chapter, how can you connect what you've learned from this chapter incorporate it into your own teaching?
I think, well, we've got to connect this chapter to our own teaching. As Dornberger loves to say, movement is music.
Yes.
We should really be using all four of the types of movement in our teaching.
Definitely.
And we can incorporate a lot of movement even into activities that aren't necessarily movement activities.
Mm-hmm.
Even just if a student is going from one place to another for an activity, it can be more engaging to say, dance there or walk there in this specific way.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a little bit of creative movement in a lesson that isn't about music. I think if I end up in a general music classroom, I will 100% be pulling from the Dalcroze method and using a lot of eurythmics activities.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think when you're introducing a new concept, if that is a rhythm concept or a pitch concept, having the children respond physically to that concept and express their understanding of that concept physically, those are words I hear myself using a lot because I think they're very, very relevant to this subject.
Yeah.
But letting kids express their understanding of a concept physically really, really sort of ingrains that concept in their mind and proves to you and proves to them that they understand it.
Yeah. And the thing about eurythmics too, I love the idea of teaching eurythmics because it gives the kids a sense of a pulse, of what having a pulse is like, and they're also allowed to be creative at the same time. So like the pulse in the music, but they're able to be creative, and I really like that. And I think movement is definitely one of the best ways. As like a kinesthetic learner too, movement has been so helpful for me for this class because like I could read the book, but I could really not really like understand with what they're trying to get at from the book. But when we did the stuff in class, like that was when like it clicked in my mind that like this is what they mean by like us having to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think some students will learn well by you writing quarter notes on the board and having them sing quarter notes.
Yeah.
But for the students that don't learn so effectively through that modality, it will help a lot to maybe walk quarter notes around the room or clap quarter notes or wave your hands to quarter notes.
Yeah.
Just getting these other modes of that information across.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Okay, well, that is enough time for today. I hope everyone has a nice day and enjoyed listening to this podcast. So I will see you next week with Chapter 7.
Bye.
Bye.